Hello, Karen. I am so glad to have you here as a guest in the I Am series of interview. I am so glad to see you after a long time in the online environment. I am very happy to chat with you and to give our listener the chance to know you better. And I invite our listeners, if you find something useful in this conversation, if you find one insight or one idea that you can take from here and apply into your life, please click the link in the description and donate a small amount of money for the hospitals in Romania who are in need now. So welcome, Karen. I am very happy to have you here today, and I challenge you to make a very quick presentation in 30 seconds. Let's say, who are you?
Raluca, it is absolutely fantastic to be talking to you. Delighted to be here. 30 seconds. Okay. So what do? I help people stand out when they speak up, to come out of the shadow of their own thinking and to stand in their power. So that's what I do. I do that in a few different ways, but that is effectively what I do, to give people the confidence to stand out and speak up.
How did you start doing that?
Oh, well, there's a few different avenues to it. One was that I absolutely did not like public speaking. I detested it. I would be sick to my stomach if I had to give a speech, Raluca. I did not like it. And an event in 2006 now, it was like a wake-up call. And part of the learning in that wake-up call was that I needed to be seen and heard. And so I set about looking at what holds us back, what limiting beliefs or thought patterns can hold us back. And I put together the inner GPS system, and that's my book, the Discover Your Inner GPS. And from there, I thought, okay, I need to look at public speaking. And so with the help of the inner GPS program, I got on the road to public speaking, and I met you a few years ago, Raluca, which was phenomenal. And so I brought the two coaching modalities together, the confidence and the public speaking. And so I wanted to help women to stand out when they speak up. And that's probably the quick synopsis of how I came to where I am now and what I do, what I love to do, Raluca.
And how was it for you in your own personal journey to find that moment where you make your voice heard?
Okay, my own personal journey was after the birth of my second child, Callum. I turned to my husband and said, look after the baby. And then I stopped breathing. And from people, my husband obviously panicked, called in the doctors, and they tried to resuscitate me with a defibrillator and various things. And I could see this happening, Raluca. I was experiencing it happening. I could see it, but I was above it all. So it was like having an out-of-body experience. And while I had that, I was getting these flashbacks, as although the only way I can describe it, of my past. And it was me being small, me hiding, me being in the background. And the message that kept coming was, you need to be seen, you need to be heard, you need to stand out. And that was constant. And after about 26 minutes, I could see the nurse approach my husband, Fran. And she put her hand on his shoulder and said, she's gone. And in that split second, I had to decide whether to be invisible or to actually come back and be seen and heard. And so that was my moment, if you can say, the moment of clarity, my wake-up call, when I just needed to step out of the shadow of the thoughts that were holding me back, the belief that I didn't deserve to be heard. So that's a bit of a heavy one, but that's where it started from, Raluca, and coming out of that darkness.
And after that, how did your life aligned, or how did you did you have to dissolve those beliefs in order to make the steps into speaking and into your voice to be heard and you to express yourself out?
It took some time. It wasn't like, wow, I have the power, I can now speak and I've no problem with it. No, it wasn't. It was, if you can, we all have limiting beliefs that hold us back. And these were deeply entrenched beliefs that I should be invisible because it was safer to be invisible. And so I needed to work through those. The inner GPS is to go deep into the emotions and clear them out, clear out those memories that were holding me back from speaking. There was various memories. I remember one in school and the teacher humiliating me in front of the class when I spoke. And so that almost confirmed or reaffirmed for me that I shouldn't speak, I should be quiet. And so when I had this wake up call, it was completely against what I'd been living from, that space of being invisible. And so I took my own advice. I cleared out the emotional pain from the past. I also got some mentors involved. These are my parachutes, which I call in the book, people who can support you. People can help you, lift you up and get you to where you want to go. So I joined Toastmaster clubs. I got mentors. I use lots of strategies. I use my visualization of seeing a wonderful audience that were very happy to have me talk. So slowly I got over my fear of public speaking. And now I actually help other women get over their fear, or whether it's in a relationship, to stand out and speak up, whether it's a meeting or in front of 1,000 people. So they have the confidence and the skill set to speak up.
How were you as a child, Karen?
As a child, it was, if I go back to this again, it was difficult. It was difficult. One of the first memories when I had that wake up call was of hiding in the wardrobe, hiding from my drunken father who was looking to teach me a lesson. And so my childhood was very fear-based, and how I coped with that was to hide and to be invisible. And so that was what played out a lot in my childhood, a survival mechanism. Now I will say I did have some absolutely amazing parachutes, people who I could seek refuge from, who made me feel like I was valued, and I had a place there. And so I think a lot of the time we battle with some of our childhood experiences, even when we're older. We battle with how we have to be accepted by the adults around us, what we have to do to be accepted. And so when I now meet people who come to me for coaching, they are carrying a lot of these limiting beliefs, and it's clearing them out of the way. And I suppose that's what I love about my work, is that to see that light bulb go off in their eyes, Raluca, when they realize, actually, I can do this. Not only can I do it, I deserve to do it. I don't need to be in the shadows anymore. I can stand out and I can speak up. So that's so rewarding. I love it. So that is sort of the turning point for me as a child, what happened, and how I see it in clients now.
When did you have the idea of writing this book?
Writing the book. Well, I've since that episode, since that time, I've been saying I need to write a book on that. But I didn't just want the book on my experience. I wanted it in a way that people could learn from it. They could take their own tools and techniques to improve in their life. And so I waited until I had the whole speaking programs done. I waited until I'd worked through some techniques with clients, done some research. And so it was 12 years later, because last year I wrote the book. So 12 years after the event, when I finally wrote the book, 12, 13 years. So the idea was there for a long time. When I sat down to write, it was only last year.
And when you coach people in dissolving their limiting beliefs, how do you proceed with them? Do you have individual approaches, and what do you suggest for our listeners to start to work with themselves, maybe?
Okay. There are lots of ways to spot if you have a limiting belief. Well, I shall answer your question in two ways, Raluca. When people come to me in a one-to-one, it's very much, it's a unique session. It's where I guide them introspectively within to find the emotions, the obstacles that are holding them back. And when we find those, we find the beliefs that we've associated with them and a coping mechanism. So we really get to the root cause of why they have obstacles in their way, why they do what they do, why they doubt themselves. And so that's quite a deep work. When people ask me, how can I help myself without coming for the sessions, I say, well, what you can do is check how you have limiting beliefs at play. And there's lots of ways. One of the ways is, what do you say when you talk to yourself? Is it always uplifting and positive? Or are there times when you put yourself down, when you doubt yourself? And if you do this, there's a really good chance you have a limiting belief at play. And whatever that voice in your head is saying that is putting you down, you need to just see the opposite. So do a whole 180-degree turn on that thought. So if the thought is, if you have this great idea, oh, I'd love to do this, and we all have these great ideas. Oh, what if I've got this great plan for work or business? And then that voice in your head doubts you, and it says, well, how can you do that? You've never succeeded before, you've always failed, or who do you think you are? Those types of things. And when that happens, just see the stop sign. And then stop that whole mental process and turn that thought around. What if I can't succeed? And give your mind a job, Raluca. Send it to the memories of your life and pull out all the times when you succeeded. And we have lots of those. When we learn to ride a bicycle, when that girl or boy asked us out, or when we asked them out and they said yes, when we passed an exam. So there are many times when we have succeeded. And so build a collage of the factual representation of when you've succeeded. So the next time that negative thought comes into your head, doubting you, you can say, well, wait a minute. I have the facts here. I can do this. I can succeed. And if I can do it once, I can do it again. And the mind will then start winding down the negativity. So that's I suppose, a very quick way of checking it. But it's just check your mental processes and what you're saying and just turn it around. Don't believe what your mind tells you.
You are curling thoughts.
Yes. Resetting your mindset. For sure.
And how does your day look like, Karen? What are your daily habits in
lockdown?
4 hours. How are you using your time wisely?
Now, I have to say, and I was saying to you just before we came on air, since the lockdown, it's not really that different for me because I love my own company. I work online with clients all over the world, so that's not too different. And so I start quite early. I'm probably awake 5 or 6. I get a few hours of work done online, working on programs, a bit of meditation, and then the kids. So I get some work done with the kids, and then I'll have clients throughout the day. So the ones this morning, this lovely interview with yourself, Raluca, and then I have a workshop this evening on public speaking. So that's my day. And I get out for a walk throughout the day, and I love it. I love the work. I love having the kids and the family at home. I'm sure they're not as happy at the minute, but it's all good. It's all good. I make the most of it.
What is the most charging part of the day for you?
Charging or challenging?
Yeah,
sorry.
Charging. The one that gives you energy and good vibes.
The two. When I'm working with the client and they have that look of that they just are lost, and you can so quickly then bring them to realization that actually it's all okay, and they have that little light bulb goes on, that self-belief, you just reignite it, you help them see themselves for who they really are. That'll keep me going for days. When that happens, that just keeps me buzzing. I love it. And then the other thing is cooking. Like, I was just cooking with my daughter, and that's fun. It's almost like meditation. It's like you're really in the moment. So things like that. When I'm working with a client, I'm really in the moment, I'm with them, and cooking has me really in the moment. So that charges my energy for sure, Raluca.
What do you like to cook with your daughter?
We had salmon and pasta baked today, so it was a very carby dinner, but she loves salmon and she loves pasta. So I tend to go with what she will eat and what she is happy to cook. So that was today's food. But we try different foods. We're hitting the Mediterranean foods because of the time of year. So a lot more salads and spices, and
So
we're quite happy
sounds
with it.
delicious and a good training for your daughter.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Raluca.
And what about your passions in outside the work, coaching, speaking area? What are you interested in?
Well, cooking is one. Cooking is definitely one, and having some friends over, a nice bottle of wine is always nice to have. But I take up different ideas. You know, writing the book was a big passion of mine, but making soap is a new one. I
Wow.
Yes, I I started in December of making soap. I quite like the whole. I never actually knew what we did to soap, and I was quite shocked when I heard that various oils and olive oil and shea butter and all these and avocado oil. I couldn't believe they went into butter or into soap, but they do. And you add some sodium hydroxide, and it's a chemical process. And I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to chemicals, and I love sciences. And so I like to make soaps, and you can add, various essential oils and colors. But the only problem, Raluca, is that when you make it, you probably make, 10 or 20 bars each time. And because it's a colorful process, you want to keep making it. So you end up having lots of soap. And, so people get soap, like, especially when the lockdown, I said, don't worry about it, I have loads of soap.
You are
And it's
safe
really nice on your
and
hands.
clean. Good.
So that's my latest craze, that although I was enjoying it, now it's like a practical use, which means I can just do more of it.
We only tried as a play, me and my daughter, and it was not so adventure. It was only
Oh,
with natural
melt and pour.
color soap, and you are melting it and adding some perfumes
Yes.
and some colors, but it was a beautiful play, and you were giving it shape afterwards. So maybe I will need some recipes if we go
Yes.
to the advanced
Very
stage.
happy to give you some. But the melt and pour is really nice. It's a great way of starting, and it's safe. It's safe. The sodium hydroxide is a little bit, it can give you chemical burns. So definitely you need to wear protection, and
Mm-hmm.
not for the kids, not for the kids. But yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's what I've been taking the spare time with, making soap.
It sounds fun, and you have a practical goal afterwards, and
I can make
you
lots
are
now. I can
using
make so
your own
much.
products. So
Yeah.
how was writing your book? Did you
Oh,
study writing before actually writing it, or did you just go into putting on paper?
yeah. I didn't. I started. It took me about 6 weeks to write the book. When I finally got around to it, I suppose parts of it, because I do the whole public speaking and structure. So I had a good idea how I wanted it structured. I wanted a bit of a workshop or workbook aspect to it. Um, and so I had my own little story at the beginning, and I used myself as examples throughout the book, my own life as examples. So the writing it was easy apart from my own personal bit, because you sort of bring it up again. You bring up various issues, and that was challenging in a way. And then when you write the book and you get people to read it, and you hope they get something out of it, that it's not just you having this almost time where you're just indulging yourself. I didn't want that. And so when you let the book out, when the book is released and it's published, which was last August, there's that moment of, oh my God, will people get something out of it? And then the reviews came in, and the phone calls and the text messages that, people, that helped them with a relationship with their daughter, or really nice comments came in, and I thought, okay, that's great. It was worth doing. People are getting something from it. So it was an interesting process. My next book will be on public speaking or presentation skills or something. But
Well,
that was an
did
interesting
you
process.
start? The next book is on.
It's I'm thinking about it. I suppose the last book took up so much time because I did it in a short space of time. I wrote from 5 till 8 every morning, and then it was the editing was a lot. So this book will be smaller, I think, if I do one. I'm hesitating. I think this is a really good opportunity to write a book because I'm in. I could make a couple of hours free a day if I wanted to. So yes, I probably will. At some stage, I'm almost afraid to say I'm definitely going
Sounds
to.
really great, and I assume it will have a practical part also, like
Yeah.
the one that you already have published.
Yeah, it'll be more in public speaking and probably an angle of speaking online because we all now, like us, speaking online. And I'm so happy. We probably wouldn't have considered doing this before, Raluca, if it hadn't been for the lockdown. So opportunities come out of the lockdown.
Yeah, you can see them if you are able to reframe the challenge into into what
Yeah.
can bring you positively.
Yes. Opportunities for sure.
So how do you feel the online trainings and workshops are different than the live ones?
I find I was doing a lot of one-to-one online, and that's fine. It was when I was transitioning the groups online, it was a little bit more challenging. So what I found was, for one thing, your energy there is 30% reduced online. You don't have that, you can't get that, you can't get the energy from the audience like when you're speaking live. You see how you're interacting with them, you know which way to go with it, you know yourself. So that's lost. And they do say that 30% of energy is lost online. And so you need to do a lot more interactive components for your workshops. So as people's energy is up, you keep them entertained, you also keep them engaged, because it's so easy to get distracted when we're just online. So I found that the more interactive workshops work really well, and smaller numbers is what I'm working with at the minute. So I can still give them some individual attention. But it's transitioning really well. I'm very happy with it, actually. And I wonder how much of my work will be online when all this is over. I'd say at least 50-60%. So we'll wait and see what happens.
You have also the advantage of spreading the area of your workshops if you go online. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And it opens it up. You're not just tied down geographically to a place. So yes, I think it has lots of opportunities that people now are not forced to explore, but they definitely have to look at reinventing what they do online. So it's interesting times we're living in, Raluca.
Yes. Did your book writing process reveal something about yourself that you didn't know?
About myself. I would never have considered I was organized, but I became really organized. So that was one thing I noticed. That's why I'm sort of almost reluctant to do a second book, because I know I'll just get really tunnel visioned and laser focused, and that'll be everything. I think what it also probably, it brings up a lot of vulnerability. A book does, and and it's a different type of vulnerability, because when you're talking to somebody on one-to-one basis, how vulnerable you want to be. But when you're vulnerable in a book, it's out there then for everyone to see. So that was challenging for me to show that vulnerability, because there's a couple of areas in the book that were quite personal, and I'd only write a few lines, and my husband read them and he said, no, if you're going to do this, you need to give the listener more of a content here, more of a context, otherwise you're just skimming over it. So there were some areas that I knew and I should have known as a storyteller that I needed to go into more detail. So I suppose if you think you have gone through learning and healing in yourself, and writing a book on yourself was a great way of showing you what perhaps you've still glossed over and needs to be uncovered.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I found about writing a personal book.
Nice. And when you go from this first book to the second one, you said you will make it shorter. Will you change anything else? Having this first process accomplished and finished, will you change anything else apart the length?
Yeah, it'll be very different. The first book was, the aspect of my own personal life. This won't be. This will be very different. There's two types of coaching I do: the confidence and the communication. And so the first book was more the confidence side of things. This will be communication, storytelling, public speaking, speaking online, all those. So very practical, and
So they will have to finish the first one to have the confidence and then go into speaking.
Yes. Be something like that. Something like that. All right. Yeah. So it'll be, yeah. That's the plan. I haven't written it yet, Raluca. You're having me thinking about it now.
More in the expertise area and not so personal, but you could also touch the personal area because you have your stories. How was your first speech in Toastmasters?
Oh my God, my first speech in Toastmasters. Well, it was about one of my parachutes, Mr. O'Byrne, phenomenal man. So it was about him, but I remember when I gave it, I was nervous, no doubt about it. I learned the speech off so as I wouldn't forget it. And it was actually it's funny when you speak in front of people, especially that first time, and they are really listening. And then I got quite emotional because I picked a guy who was one of my first parachutes, Superman, and he had died the previous week. Hence, I wrote the speech about him. And he's in the book as well. He features in the book. But he's a phenomenal guy, and I got a little bit emotional towards the end, towards the end, and I wasn't expecting that. And I think that's what I liked about speaking in front of a group, is that the energy, the crowd can read you and read your emotion, and what I found was a nice safe place to do it. So the first speech, I will always remember it, but the atmosphere was really nice. I was very, very nervous, and I was very, very nervous for, I'd say, the first 5 or 6 speeches at least. The nerves got a bit better after that, Raluca.
But you were able to transmit emotion beside that anxiety, and it was a good speech.
Yeah, well, yeah, I still have the recording. It was, I suppose,
it was
because
a pleasant memory for you.
Yeah, it was a lovely memory because he was such an amazing guy. He used to open up his garage to us kids every day, and we'd go in. But he got us to paint. He would paint the room a very pale blue, and he got all tins of paint. He was a painter, and he allowed us paint our hands and feet all over this garage. So like we owned it. So it really felt like we belonged.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose it was really somebody who made me feel special in a nice way like that really touched me. And I suppose sharing that with the audience was what choked me up a little bit, because he was a phenomenal man to all the kids in the area. He was just brilliant. So my first speech went okay. Yes, I remember them all very well. Such a long time ago now.
Yeah. So when you challenge somebody to go into speaking and he has no experience at all, how would you recommend to prepare that first speech in order to be a pleasant memory, a positive anchor, and to to frame positively the experience in order to encourage him?
I suppose people will come to do public speaking usually because they have to for work or they want to promote their business. So they already have a reason to do it. And that's always a good place to start from, somewhere, something positive. And so you would sell them not so much the features of public speaking, but the benefits, how good they will feel once they've got it done. And while you're helping them put together their speech, you're really boosting their confidence and their belief in themselves. And that always helps. So I think part of being a speaker coach is that you know, the person who wants to do the speaking, they borrow that belief that you have in them. You know, you can really, you know, pump somebody up and say, yes, you can do it. And they'll go out and they'll do it. And okay, it might deflate a little bit and you pump them up again. And so I think they have to borrow the belief. And I always say when somebody wants to give a speech, you know, keep it conversational. What is the audience going to get out of this speech? It's all about the audience. What are you saying? What is your message? How are you going to get it across in such a way as your audience will understand it? And what do you want them to do as a result of hearing you speak? What do you want them to think, say, act differently? And I think once you start from that place, it's going to help you. Part of your nerves, and I know if I felt this, is because my focus was on me. When I started speaking, it was like, how am I going to get through it? Oh my God, will I remember all the lines? Will I be able to face these people? Will I stumble? Will I? So the focus there is all on me. And I think when we focus on ourselves, then the nerves get really, really bad. Whereas if we're focusing on the audience members and thinking, what are they getting from this? You know, how can I say this in a way that they will remember it, that they will understand it, that it will make sense to them? And when my focus is on the audience, the nerves go, you know, they go away, or at least 90%, I'd say, quicker if you do that. So it's getting your speaker to focus on the audience and what they're going to get out of it. It's a great start with it.
What is your biggest quality, Karen?
Quality would be, well, quality, I don't know. As I thought of what my husband mightn't agree with me, is I'm quite sensitive in a way that especially after that event that happened in my life when my son was born, I quite sense people's emotions, people's feelings. So I can really tap into if they are nervous, sad, lonely, whatever it might be. And so I can help them. I almost feel it for them. And so I can help move them out of that. And I think sometimes if we all put on masks to hide those feelings. And if you can, without having to say anything to them, you can just support them to move out of that energy, I think hopefully people see it as a good quality. You know, hopefully they can.
Do you make this sort of emotional transformation also in a speech with your audience, taking them from one emotional state and moving them and pumping them or giving them the pump to have it at home?
You know, but you've hit something there really important, Raluca. It's an emotional journey you take your audience on. You know, if I said to you, if I gave you a very quick speech about Tom was a vet, he always wants, or Tom wants to be a vet, he became a vet, he married the woman of his dreams, lived a very long life, had 4 children, and died in his sleep at 90. Yeah, there's nothing there. Tom had no challenge. There was no sense of learning. There was nothing going on in that story that you'd go, wow. You know, so we all need to be brought on an emotional journey, and that's what we need to do with our audience. So you might have a challenge. It's like going to the cinema or the movies. We have a hero. He's always got a challenge. Yeah, and when there's a challenge, it gets our cortisol going. And then we get really laser focused. So in your audience, you want to elicit that hormone in them, so they're focused on what you're saying. And then you want to move them to perhaps a solution, or the hero does well. And then there's the dopamine is released then. Yeah, and then there's oxytocin. There's a few hormones that you want to bring your audience on, but you always finish with your audience on a high. You know, I think that's the responsibility of the speaker, in that wherever they go with the story, you can be sad, lonely, angry, whatever it might be, but you always finish by bringing your audience to at least neutral, if not higher energy than where you found them. I think that's a responsibility. So you might finish on hope or something. So yes, it's an emotional journey for your audience as well.
It is. So what was your highest emotional moment in your life?
I suppose my kids being born, I suppose was a big one. It was my daughter wasn't very well when I was pregnant on her, so that was a challenge. And when she was my third child, so there was a few things going on. The doctors, when I got pregnant again, weren't very happy. But when I had my daughter had some complications, and when she was born, it was the fact that I survived and she survived. So it was an emotional high there. It was a release of, okay, get through this, get through anything, and we did. And she's amazing. She was cooking with me today. So they were probably kids.
I bet you two are together.
We don't always get along, but we don't always get along, but it's good. It's good. She's feisty.
So what are your future plans in personal and in professional life?
Hey. Wow. The future plans, professional is, I suppose, just keep doing what I'm doing. I like what I do. I suppose get it to more people, help more people would be brilliant. The online courses, programs, have the time to develop them. They do take a bit of time. So that's my professional side of things. Personal, it's just challenging myself. I like the challenges, see where things go. Being there for the kids, helping the kids, and helping the kids through their challenge, because there's nothing like other people in the house who have their own challenges, and it means you have to dig deep and actually see which limiting beliefs you still have running. I mean, one of them, for instance, my son came home from school and his teacher gave him detention because the way he had responded to her. And I said to him, she's got a big class. She can't give you the time. But what I will say to you is that I agree with your approach. Yeah, I agree with your approach. You don't need to do what the teacher says all the time, but there are rules in the school. But know that we're on your side. And I think, as parents, we need to see that some of the rules that we give our kids growing up are just so as not so much we can control them, but that they will be accepted by others, by the school, and that we need to let them know that these rules are short term. Don't feel you need to carry these on when you leave school, and know that we'll always sit down and talk it out with you. So that's a challenge, a personal challenge, is to be able to steer the kids through all these rules, regulations, and no's, and for them to hopefully come out feeling like they're in a good place and that they feel good in themselves. So that's always a challenge, isn't it? I think.
Mm-hmm. And when you go on with your kids through those beliefs, what is your favorite way to empower and to construct empowering beliefs and to make them create for their own in their personal action, maybe without you, to be able to empower themselves in situations with conflicts or so?
Okay, now let me see, there's a few different ways I could approach this one. let me, I'm going to bring it back to last July, for instance, because this has come up to me a couple of times. My daughter was really acting out. She banged the doors in the house. She was shouting. She was being a real pain. But I was trying to finish the book, and we'd had a bit of an argument, and I decided that I would just be quiet, because if I said anything, I'd end up screaming at her. And I thought that isn't what I wanted, so I left it. And the next morning, she came bouncing in as if nothing happened, and that's kids, isn't it? They so easily can forget the little tips from the day before. And I said to her, you know, we need to look at this. We need to look at what's going on here. And I asked her for a little bit of time, and I would speak to her dad. So myself and Fran spoke about it. And I said to him, I don't want to discipline her. I don't want to take away some of her privileges. We need to work through this. And when I sat down, I realized that, you know, I hadn't been giving her the time because I was writing the book. So she was acting out, and she just didn't have the words, or she didn't have the communication to be able to do it. And so we sat down, and we had a very, very long conversation over about 4 hours, where we sat down with each other's feelings, how we felt the other person was feeling, how we contributed to that, and what we needed to do in future to avoid that. And it was a really good conversation, and she did a little art picture, and she stuck it on the fridge of things that she needs to do, like we need to respect each other, we need to listen. And I think it was really good. We slowed things right down, rather than say to her, that's it, if you speak to me again like that, I'm taking your phone away, which would be devastating to her. So we didn't do that. You know, we actually approached it very differently, and it works really well. So I think sitting down with children and really getting a sense of how they're feeling, why they're feeling that way, and what emotions are going on for them, can be quite empowering for them to realize the impact of their actions on the family. Mm-hmm. And it's always changing. They're getting older, it's always changing. There's always compromise. There's always, let's look at the rules. You know, my kids will say every so often, we need to have a family meeting, you know, because things are changing. So family meetings tend to be long.
It's good. You know. They own your tools now.
Yes, they do. Yeah, my son says now, Mum, your reticular activating system, now what are you programming it to focus on? So yeah, it's funny the bits they take on, they use against you. It's all good. They're great fun.
And for the next month, let's say, what is the most joyful thing that you are planning?
Well, my mum has been in lockdown, you know, for 6 weeks now. We haven't been able to visit her. She has started to use the phone, the video, so on WhatsApp. So I'm hoping that the joyful thing is that I can go visit her. She's in her 80s. She's on her own. We had been visiting her through the porch door, and we could look at her, but now we can't travel. So I'm hoping that when the restrictions lift, that's, you know, we can go down and look after her better now, rather than just over the phone. So things like that would be great to be able to do. And lots of little things.
To have family together again, and friends close, and
that'd be great. Yeah.
Be able to travel. Do you miss something?
I'm probably just seeing my mum. Like I can get around in most other things. The hairdresser. To go to the hairdresser. Little things like that you take for granted. You know, that's travel. You know, been able to travel, been able to drive further than a few kilometers because we're restricted at the moment. But you know, most of those we can get around. You know, they're fine. It's not a big deal.
What is the most positive thing about this quarantine for you and your family?
Mother Nature. I think, you know, I think she's the winner here. I think us not traveling and all that, I think she's recovering. It's amazing how we can get by without all the traveling and without the driving. So I think Mother Nature is the winner here. But I on a more personal note, I suppose what is the best thing to come out of this is to realize how little we need and how important that human contact is. There are ways around it. We can have Zoom parties and whatever else, but it's
confetti music.
Lights. I've done it. Having flashing lights, karaoke. Yeah, we've done it. But it's you know, so there's ways around it, and people are getting really inventive, and I suppose it's bringing out the community spirit more. People are acknowledging other people, whether it be online or clapping at, you know, on a Thursday evening for people in the healthcare. So it's showing a nice side of human nature, and I love that.
Me too. And now for the finish line of our interview, thank you so much, Karen, for being here. My challenge is to complete the sentence, me, Karen, I am, with only one word.
Grateful.
Thank you
I'm
so
grateful for
much.
this friendship. I'm grateful that you invited me on, and I'm grateful for all that I have. Thank you.
It's the secret for being happy
For
every
sure.
day by day, with the simple things. Thank you so much, Karen. It was a blessing to have you here. And I hope that our listeners have catch some of the great things that you have captured in inside this interview. And I hope to see you soon. I wish you best of luck with your second book, and I can't wait to read it.
Thank you, Raluca,
Thank you
and
so
thank you so
much.
much for your friendship. This has been lovely. Appreciate it. Thank you.